Hello, I'm Michael Topham and welcome to this month's masterclass video lesson that's going to be taking a good detailed look at Photoshop's shadow highlight command. There are two masterclass videos on this month's CD that will be touching on this valuable Photoshop adjustment, and in this first one we'll get used to using the command within the basic adjustment dialog. This means that we'll be limiting ourselves to using two sliders to adjust our image. But the work that we'll carry out in this tutorial will stand us in a great position ready for the thorough step-by-step technique in the second video. So, the shadow highlight adjustment. It's available from Photoshop's list of adjustments under Image in the menu bar. It's found down towards the bottom and can be a great tool to revive detail in our images and can help turn rather mundane shots into something a lot more interesting and dramatic. You're likely to have used other Photoshop tools to lighten your pics before, such as levels or curves. Loading up the levels here by hitting Ctrl and L and taking a look at the histogram reveals that this photograph is underexposed in the shadows. And even if we try and adjust it with the sliders, it's difficult to get the ideal balance we want between the shadows and the highlights. The great thing about the shadow highlight command is that it works in a different way to levels and curves. Instead of simply lightening and darkening pixels, it carefully studies the neighbouring pixels in a photograph and makes adjustments based on the average pixel value. Taking a look at this image on my screen, steps.jpg, which is also in the Start Images folder on the CD, it shows that we took our meter reading in the centre of the image, and at the top of the stairs there really wasn't enough light to illuminate the handrail or the top steps. Before the shadow highlight dialog is loaded, it's always important to create a new duplicate layer to work on, and this will save us doing any damage to the main background layer in the long run. Dragging the background layer onto the Create New Layer icon in the bottom of the Layers palette is one way of creating a new layer, or you could equally hit Ctrl and J. Double-click on the layer's name in the Layers palette to rename this Shadow Highlight, and then move up into the menu bar, click on Image, go down to Adjustments, scroll across and then go down to Shadows and Highlights. As the basic dialog loads up, you'll notice that the appearance of the image instantly changes. This is because Photoshop sets the shadows to 50% as default. The two sliders that you get in the basic dialog are the shadows and the highlights, and these are the two that we're going to be focusing on for now. Clicking on Show More Options reveals many more sliders and controls, and this is often referred to as the Advanced Shadow Highlight dialog. We'll see how all of these sliders can have an effect on our images a little later in part 2. So now that we're back in the basic dialog, we can go up and have a look at the shadows. The shadows slider at the top can be set anywhere between 0 and 100%. Taking it down to 0 shows the image without any adjustment, and as it's slowly moved over to the right, it's revealing detail in the shadows that was previously thought to be lost. Even in the darkest of images, it's impressive how much detail this shadows amount slider can recover. With the shadows amount set to 75%, we can see that it's enhanced the brickwork detail at the top and the bottom of the image, and the preview can be ticked on and off inside the dialog to see the difference between before and after. The highlight slider below the shadows slider works in the same principle. It can be set anywhere between 0 and 100% and is used to reveal more detail in the highlights, but it cannot bring back detail where there isn't any. So if you've got an overexposed image and the highlights are burnt out, or the highlight clipping warning shows areas with no detail, you won't be able to pull them back with this slider. Taking hold of the highlight slider and moving this to the right reveals that the adjustment has worked out the highlight areas in the image, and it's only having an effect on the central part of this image, leaving the shadows that we've already adjusted untouched. On this example, I'm going to keep my highlights set to 3%. If you're uncertain of the settings and the values that you've used and want to return to the default settings very quickly, a handy tip is to hold down the Alt key, which changes the Cancel button to a Reset button. Clicking on the reset button would instantly take us back to how the image looked as soon as the shadow highlight dialog was loaded. Now I'm quite happy with my shadow highlight adjustment settings, so I'm just going to go up and apply them by hitting OK. If I go up to Layer in the menu bar, go down to New Adjustment Layer and click on Levels, you'll be able to see that the histogram now looks in a much better shape thanks to the work that we've carried out, and it's no longer clumped over towards the left-hand side. Taking hold of the highlight slider, I'm going to drag this over to the left and place it at the base of the mountain, with the highlight input level set to around 196. If you're using an earlier version of Photoshop, such as CS, CS2 or CS3, you can apply this adjustment by hitting OK, but I'm using CS4, so I'm just going to close this Adjustments tab down. So now that we've taken a look at the Shadow Highlight Adjustment command and have used it very simply and effectively to enhance this image, it's time to move on and explore the other options and controls in the more advanced Shadow Highlight dialog. In the next tutorial, we'll be working on an image named dereliction.jpg, so make sure you locate this and load it up into your version of Photoshop from the Start Images folder. I'll rejoin you and see you in the next masterclass video very shortly.